Voters say homelessness is their #1 concern heading into the November election. And while it is a statewide issue, it's concentrated here in Portland. Now, we talked with Gonzalez for about 20 minutes today on what he would do differently to address this crisis if elected.
We've got to think big on how we address this issue.
Longtime Portlander, Democrat, and father of 3, Rene Gonzalez describes the state of Portland streets as rough and depressing.
They feel dangerous, they feel unwelcoming, and sometimes unusable.
You say City Hall's ineffective, ideologically driven policies are ruining the city that we used to proudly call home. What do you mean by that as it pertains to the homeless crisis?
Well, we don't drive the discussion with data, and let me be very specific. We tend to homogenize the issue, describe it entirely as an affordability challenge, and when you dig into the data, particularly with respect to the unsheltered, those we interact with daily on the streets, we have a substantial crisis of disabilities. 1 and 2 on that list are addiction and mental illness.
Expanding Portland's addiction treatment services, he says, is dependent on partnering with the state and county.
In your eyes, what isn't working with how the city is handling the homeless crisis, and how could you change that?
Yeah, we're not building nearly enough shelter. And I define that very broadly, everything from safe sleeping spaces to high barrier shelter. We've underinvested in shelter. We've told Portlanders they need to wait to address some of the crisis on our streets until there's enough affordable housing in the area. That day may never come.
You speak of prioritizing shelter. Well, what about the homeless population that refuses to go into shelter? Recent studies show that majority of the people on the streets prefer to stay in their tents.
Yeah, so I think, again, we're going to have to segment that, not treat the whole, what I would call service-resistant population and unsheltered population the same. There are folks that have legitimate concerns about going to shelter, if particularly low-barrier shelter. On the other end of the spectrum, if you don't want to go to shelter because you have a gun, because you want to use hard drugs, because you want to continue to engage in criminal activity, then I think they need to face the criminal justice system.
Do you really think that taking people off the streets and putting them into the criminal justice system, if that's the only option, is the best approach, since sometimes that just continues the cycle?
If they're engaging in car thefts, bike thefts, catalytic converter thefts, low-level vandalism, if they are breaking into stores to feed habits and they happen to hide out in our unsanctioned camps, I think we absolutely have to disrupt that cycle.
How will you ensure that these ideas don't just remain conceptual, and how do you plan to get the rest of City Hall behind you?
Well, I think City Hall is moving in the direction I've been articulating since I've entered this race. I am running against the most radical member of City Council on these issues, at times the most anti-law enforcement, at times the most passive with respect to addressing unsheltered camps. And so you replace the most radical member of City Council with someone who I think is more in line with where the city wants to go in addressing these issues. I think we're going to have 3 to 4 votes very consistently on a lot of the things I'm describing.
We also talked of his response to the mayor's 5-part plan announced last week, which includes a move to ban unsanctioned homeless camping. Gonzalez says he supports the plan and that it's heading in the right direction. You can watch the full interview on our YouTube channel. And next week, we're scheduled to talk with Commissioner Joanne Hardesty. Blair Best, KGW News.